She mistook a CEO for the barista who spelled her name wrong, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into the story. Emma glanced at the cup in her hand, her eyes narrowing as she saw the name scrawled across the paper cup. It was the usual Starbucks morning rush, the kind of day when the world seemed to move in fast forward. But today, something felt different. She could feel the weight of her long hours as a waitress in a small downtown cafe, her dream of becoming an artist slipping further away with every passing day. The cup she held was a reminder of how much she had sacrificed for a job that barely paid the bills. Emmy? She mumbled to herself, clearly irritated by the misspelling. Her name was Emma, not Emmy. She'd told the barista that 1,000 times before. She had even corrected him the last time he made the same mistake. This time, she wasn't going to let it slide. She stepped forward, ready to address the mistake. "Excuse me, you spelled my name wrong again," she said, her voice shaky from nerves and exhaustion. But when she looked up, she froze. The man behind the counter wasn't the barista she had seen so many times before. He was different, tall, dark-haired, and wearing a crisp, black suit that seemed out of place in a coffee shop. He looked at her, blinking for a second before offering a smile that was both apologetic and a bit amused. "Oh, sorry about that," he said, his voice deep and calm. "I'll make sure it's correct next time." Emma stood there for a moment, her mind racing. She felt awkward, standing in front of this well-dressed stranger who had no idea who she was, and yet he had just made the same mistake as the barista. She couldn't help but chuckle nervously. "It's fine," she said quickly, forcing a smile. I get it a lot." The man's smile widened, and he gave her a thoughtful look. "I know how that feels," he said, leaning slightly across the counter. "I'm Liam, by the way." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she looked into his eyes. There was something about him that felt different. Maybe it was the warmth in his voice, or the way he seemed genuinely interested in her small complaint. They exchanged a few more words, mostly awkward pleasantries, before Emma finally grabbed her coffee and left the cafe. But as she stepped out into the bright morning sunlight, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. She didn't know it yet, but this small, seemingly insignificant interaction would soon change everything about her life. Little did she know, Liam Parker wasn't just another customer at her local coffee shop. He was the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the world. And he wasn't just a random guy who had misspelled her name. He was about to become someone who would turn her world upside down. The next few days felt like a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about the encounter at the coffee shop. It was a simple mistake, nothing more than that. But something about the way Liam had smiled at her genuinely, and without the usual distance she felt from people stuck with her. The idea that she had met him, and the odd way they had connected over something so trivial as her name being misspelled, made her wonder if there was something more to that moment. Could there be something special there? She tried to push the thought aside, convincing herself that it was nothing. After all, he was just another customer, and she was just a waitress. There was no way someone like him would ever care about someone like her. But still, her mind kept returning to the brief exchange. Emma tried to focus on her work, the endless hours she spent, serving coffee, cleaning tables, and dreaming of a future she couldn't afford. She had always been the hopeful type, always imagining what could be. But the reality was that she was stuck in a small, cramped apartment with peeling paint and a dwindling bank account. Her dream of opening an art studio seemed farther away with every passing day. The little money she made went to rent, bills, and just getting by. It was a cycle that she couldn't seem to break free from. But that afternoon, as she stood behind the counter, preparing another latte, her thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice. "Excuse me, is Emma here today?" She turned around, startled. There, standing in the doorway of the cafe, was Liam dressed in another crisp suit, his eyes scanning the room. He spotted her immediately and made his way over. "I didn't expect to see you again," Emma said, trying to hide the surprise in her voice. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or nervous, but she couldn't help but smile at the sight of him. Liam gave her a warm smile, his eyes twinkling. "I thought I'd stop by and make up for the name mishap," he said, holding up his cup. "I promise I'll get it right next time." "It's really not a big deal," Emma said, laughing lightly. "It happens all the time." They both smiled, the awkwardness of the situation slowly melting away. For a moment, Emma felt like maybe she wasn't so invisible after all. Liam's presence, so easy and natural, put her at ease. He seemed genuinely interested in her world, something she rarely felt from customers, who usually just wanted their coffee and to be on their way. But Liam wasn't like that. "I was hoping you could tell me more about your artwork," he said, leaning slightly on the counter. "I know you said you wanted to open a studio, and I think that's incredible. I admire people who chase their dreams, no matter how big they seem." Emma blinked, surprised. Was he serious? She had mentioned her dream only briefly, almost in passing, and certainly not expecting anyone to remember it. Yet here he was, asking about it. "Well," she started, feeling a little flustered. "I've always loved painting, but right now, I'm just trying to get by. You know how it is." Liam nodded, a soft look in his eyes. "I do," he said quietly. "I know what it's like to be stuck in a routine that doesn't make you happy, to feel like you're constantly struggling, but you keep going because that's what you have to do." Emma studied him, her curiosity growing. "You do?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Liam smiled faintly. "I didn't always have everything I do now. There was a time when I had to fight for every inch of success, and there were a lot of people who told me it wasn't possible." Emma couldn't help but feel intrigued. He wasn't just some rich guy who lived in a bubble of privilege. There was more to him than that. "So, what changed?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam paused for a moment, then shrugged. "A lot of things." But one of the biggest changes came from realizing that success isn't just about money or power. It's about finding something that truly makes you happy and building your life around that. Emma felt a flicker of hope stir inside her. Maybe she wasn't so far off from reaching her dreams after all. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to make it happen. They spent the next few minutes talking, and to Emma's surprise, Liam didn't seem like the type of person who was just passing through. He actually cared about what she had to say, and he seemed genuinely interested in her life. By the time their conversation ended, Emma was left with a feeling she hadn't had in a long time: hope. Liam's words, his kindness, the way he had listened to her and offered encouragement, made her feel like maybe things could change for the better. Maybe this was just the beginning of something new. The next morning, Emma woke up to find a message from Liam. It was simple, but it made her heart race with excitement. "I know I promised to help with your art studio dream. I meant it. Let's make it happen." The words were small, but to Emma, they meant the world. Emma sat at her small, cluttered kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through the window, casting a soft glow on the papers in front of her. She had barely slept the night before, her mind racing with thoughts of Liam's message. "Let's make it happen." Those simple words had ignited something inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. She stared at the blank notebook in front of her, imagining what it would be like to have her own art studio, a place where she could paint freely, a place that was all hers. It seemed like a dream she might never wake up from, but now, with Liam's offer, it felt more real than ever. She picked up her phone and reread his message again, as if hoping for some sign that this was all real. "I know I promised to help with your art studio dream. I meant it. Let's make it happen." She couldn't believe it. He wasn't just talking about it, he was serious. Emma knew she couldn't waste time. The opportunity was right in front of her, and for the first time, she felt like she had a chance to do something bigger than just get by. But she also couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. She was just a waitress, a small-town girl with big dreams. What could she possibly have in common with someone like Liam? He was a CEO, a billionaire. He could have anyone, and yet here he was, offering to help her. Emma felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if this was just some kind of experiment for him? What if he was just playing the role of the good guy, offering her help because he felt sorry for her? She had to be careful. But even with the doubts swirling in her mind, there was a small voice telling her to trust him, to take the leap. She picked up the phone and dialed the number Liam had given her. It rang twice before he answered. "Emma, hey," Liam's voice came through. calm and reassuring. "How's it going?" "Hi, Liam," Emma replied, her voice trembling slightly. I got your message. I'm really excited but also a little nervous. I don't even know where to start." "That's okay," Liam said warmly. "We'll figure it out together. I want to make sure you're set up for success, not just with the studio, but with everything you need. I have some ideas, and I want to know what you're thinking." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. He sounded genuine, not like someone who was just trying to fix things out of obligation. He seemed like he actually cared. "Well, I've been thinking about a few things. I want the space to feel like a home for my art. Not just a gallery, but a place where people can come in and experience it. I want to create something that feels alive." Liam was quiet for a moment, as if he was taking in her words. "I like that," he said finally. "You don't just want to create art. You want to create an experience. That's what I think makes a business like yours stand out. Let's talk about the next steps. I have some connections that might help with the space, but I want to make sure we're on the same page." Emma felt a surge of hope. He was listening. He was really listening. "Okay," she said, feeling more confident now. "I guess we should start with finding the right place. I've been looking at some spaces downtown, but I don't know if they'll be big enough." "I can help with that," Liam replied. "I know some real estate agents who specialize in finding spaces for creative businesses. We'll find something perfect for you." Emma smiled, her heart lifting. It was happening. The dream she had kept locked away for so long was starting to come to life. Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. Liam arranged meetings with the best real estate agents, and Emma started looking at spaces in the heart of the city. It was a world she wasn't used to: glossy offices, sleek modern buildings, and endless possibilities. But Liam was there every step of the way, guiding her, giving her advice, but never pushing too hard. He made sure she was comfortable with every decision. One afternoon, after visiting a beautiful space with high ceilings and large windows, Emma couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. She stood by the window, looking out at the bustling city below, and suddenly it hit her. This wasn't just about a studio anymore. This was her chance to take control of her life, to build something she could be proud of. She felt a tap on her shoulder, and when she turned around, there was Liam, standing there with a small smile on his face. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. Emma nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Yeah, I can't believe this is happening." "You deserve it," Liam said simply. "You've worked hard for this, and I'm just happy to be here to help." Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. It wasn't just the business support she was grateful for. It was the way he had made her feel seen. For so long, she had felt invisible, like her dreams didn't matter. But with Liam, she felt like she was worth something. She wasn't just a waitress in a small cafe anymore. She was an artist. And soon, she would have a place to prove it. As they left the building, Liam put his hand on her shoulder. "This is just the beginning, Emma," he said. "We're going to make something amazing together." Emma smiled, feeling the weight of his words settle in her heart. This was only the start of a new chapter. And for the first time, she wasn't alone. Weeks passed in a blur of meetings, paperwork, and endless phone calls. The dream that Emma had long held on to, that distant fantasy of a place she could call her own, was quickly becoming a reality. The space was secured, the lease signed, and the walls that had once felt like a barrier now held the promise of something new. It was finally happening. Emma found herself spending long hours in the empty building, sketching designs for the layout, imagining where the easels would go, where the paint would flow. The space was filled with potential, but she still couldn't shake the feeling of unease that followed her every step. It was one thing to dream, but another entirely to make it real. She had put so much of herself into this vision that the fear of failure weighed heavily on her. What if she couldn't make it work? What if no one came? What if the passion she had worked so hard to ignite would fizzle out before it even had a chance to burn? Liam had been there every step of the way, but lately, Emma noticed that he had been distant, more businesslike than before. He'd show up with ideas and suggestions, but his presence felt more like that of a mentor than a friend. She had come to rely on his support, his encouragement, but now, as the opening day grew closer, she was left to wrestle with her doubts alone. One evening, she was alone in the studio, walking through the space, running her hand over the bare walls. The echo of her footsteps seemed to amplify the weight of her worries. She stopped near the back of the room, looking out the window at the city skyline. The lights twinkled below her, and for a moment, she felt small. Just another dreamer in a sea of ambition. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from Liam. "I've been thinking about the opening day. I know it's a big step, and I want to make sure we're fully prepared. I'll be there to help with the final details." Emma read the message twice. It was exactly what she needed to hear, but it still didn't quiet the storm in her mind. She typed back, her fingers hesitating over the keys. "Thanks, Liam. I'm not sure I'm ready for all of this." Almost instantly, he replied. "You've already done the hard part, Emma. You've taken the leap. Now it's time to trust yourself." Emma stared at his words for a long time, the uncertainty slowly starting to fade. She had always questioned her ability to follow through, but Liam's words reminded her of why she had started this journey in the first place. She wasn't alone anymore. She wasn't just a waitress who dreamed of something more. She was an artist with a place to create, to grow. The fear was still there, but it no longer held her back. The following week, Emma spent every waking moment finalizing details. She reached out to local artists, set up promotional materials, and began preparing the space for its grand opening. The night before the event, she stood in the middle of the studio, looking around at the work she had put in. It was far from perfect, but it was hers. A sense of accomplishment washed over her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of pride in what she had created. But as she left the studio that night, her heart heavy with anticipation, she couldn't help but feel that something was missing. She had spent so much time focusing on the details of the studio, on making sure everything was perfect, that she had neglected the most important part, the people. She hadn't told her family about the studio. She hadn't told them about Liam and the way he had supported her through it all. They wouldn't understand. They had always seen her as the dreamer, the one who had big ideas but never followed through. She hadn't wanted to face their doubt, their questions, their disbelief. But now, as the opening drew nearer, Emma realized that this wasn't just about her dreams anymore. It was about something bigger. It was about showing the people she loved that she had truly made it. She took a deep breath and pulled out her phone. "Mom, I have something important to tell you," she typed. She hit send, then waited, her heart racing. The response came almost immediately. "What is it, sweetie?" her mom asked. "I'm opening an art studio. Tomorrow is the opening day." She stared at the message, the words hanging on the screen for a long time. She wasn't sure how her mom would react. Would she be proud? Or would she dismiss it like she had dismissed so many of Emma's other dreams? The reply finally came. "I'm so proud of you, Emma. I knew you could do it." Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She had expected resistance, but instead, she felt acceptance. The next day, as the studio doors opened for the first time, Emma stood at the entrance, her heart racing. People began to trickle in, drawn in by the soft glow of the lights and the warmth of the space. Liam showed up, just like he promised, standing off to the side and watching her with that proud, encouraging smile. It was a moment she would never forget. This was her moment, her chance to show the world that she was more than just a waitress. She was an artist, and this was her studio. And as the first guests filtered in, Emma realized that the leap she had taken wasn't just about the studio. It was about taking control of her life, taking a chance on herself. She wasn't done yet. The best was still to come. The opening night was a whirlwind of excitement and nerves for Emma. The studio was alive with energy, filled with the hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the soft rustling of footsteps on the polished floor. People from all over the city had come, intrigued by the idea of a new art space in the heart of downtown. It was everything she had dreamed of. And yet, standing at the center of it all, Emma felt a strange sense of unease. Her heart raced as she moved through the crowd, greeting old friends and strangers alike. Liam had been there from the start, supporting her every step of the way. But tonight, he had taken a step back, letting Emma take center stage. He had quietly offered his advice and guidance. But now, as she watched the people around her, she felt the weight of it all. This was her moment. But was she ready for it? The night went on, and the people continued to mingle, admiring the paintings on the walls, chatting about the various pieces on display. Emma watched it all from the side, trying to soak in the experience, but the doubt lingered. It wasn't until later, when the crowd had started to thin out, that Emma found herself standing by the window, looking out at the city below. The streetlights shimmered, casting a soft glow on the streets, and for the first time that night, Emma felt a wave of calm wash over her. She had done it. She had created this space. She had built something real. The sound of footsteps behind her broke her thoughts. She turned to find Liam walking toward her, a soft smile on his face. "You did it, Emma," he said, his voice filled with pride. "This is just the beginning." Emma couldn't help but smile back, but the feeling of doubt still lingered. "It feels so surreal," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've dreamed of this for so long, but now that it's actually happening, I'm scared." Liam stepped closer, his expression softening. "Fear is natural," he said. "But it's not about being fearless. It's about doing it anyway. You've already taken the hardest step." Emma nodded, the words sinking in. She had taken that first step, the one that had terrified her more than anything. But now, she realized that there was still more to come. She wasn't finished yet. The night ended with a quiet moment between the two of them, standing by the window, watching the world move below. Emma had created something beautiful, and it was only the beginning. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. The studio was slowly gaining traction, and Emma's dream was becoming more and more real with each passing day. She had customers coming in regularly, buying pieces of art, and even commissioning work. It was everything she had hoped for. But as the success of the studio grew, so did the pressure. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Emma, and she found herself feeling more and more overwhelmed. She had started this venture on a dream, but now it was becoming a business. The line between passion and profit was starting to blur, and Emma was struggling to keep up. She found herself working late into the night, trying to handle everything from managing finances to overseeing the gallery's daily operations. She didn't want to admit it, but the stress was starting to get to her. One evening, after closing the studio, Emma sat at her desk, staring at the piles of paperwork in front of her. The numbers didn't add up, and the weight of the decisions she had to make felt suffocating. She let out a deep breath, running a hand through her hair. That's when her phone buzzed. It was Liam. "I've been thinking," the message read. "You've been working nonstop, and I think you could use a break. Let's go out for dinner, my treat." Emma hesitated for a moment, feeling the exhaustion weigh heavily on her. She wanted to say no. She wanted to stay in and work, but something in Liam's message made her pause. He was right. She needed a break. She texted back, "Okay, dinner sounds good." A short while later, they met at a small Italian restaurant, one of Liam's favorites. As they sat down to eat, Emma found herself relaxing for the first time in days. They talked about everything: art, business, life. Liam's easy demeanor, his genuine interest in her, made her feel like she wasn't just a business owner, but a person. It had been so long since she had felt that kind of connection with someone. As the night wore on, Emma realized something important. She had built this studio, but it wasn't just about the art or the business. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could change her life and the lives of others. But it was also about balance. She couldn't do it all on her own. She needed help, and she needed to lean on the people who cared about her. After dinner, Liam walked her back to the studio. They stood outside for a moment, and Liam gave her a knowing smile. "You've got this, Emma," he said. "You just need to take care of yourself, too." Emma smiled back, her heart feeling lighter than it had in days. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. With Liam's support, she knew she could face whatever came next. She wasn't alone in this anymore. Together, they could make it work. The days that followed were a whirlwind of growth and change for Emma. The studio was thriving, customers were pouring in, and Emma could hardly believe how much her life had transformed in such a short period. It wasn't just about the art. It was about everything that had come with it: the sense of independence, the pride in building something from the ground up, and the unexpected connections she had made along the way. But despite the success, something was gnawing at her. She had built this studio with a vision, but she realized that the pressure of running a business was starting to take a toll on her. The balance between being an artist and a business owner was harder than she had imagined. Late nights spent calculating expenses, handling inventory, and answering emails were slowly eating away at her passion for the very thing that had started it all, her artwork. It wasn't that she didn't love the studio, but she had sacrificed so much of herself in the process. One evening, as she sat alone in her office, staring at the spreadsheets in front of her, she felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She had been running on fumes for weeks, and the weight of it all was finally starting to show. Her mind wandered to Liam, who had been so supportive from the very beginning. He had helped her in ways she never expected. Not just financially, but emotionally, too. He had been her rock when she doubted herself, and she couldn't help but wonder if it was time for her to lean on him again. Just then, her phone buzzed, and she saw a message from him. "How's everything going with the studio? If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." His words were simple, but they brought her a sense of comfort. She had always felt a little uneasy about asking for help, especially from someone like Liam. He had so much to offer, and she didn't want to burden him with her problems. But tonight, she felt like she couldn't carry the weight alone any longer. She texted him back. "I'm struggling a bit, to be honest. The studio is doing great, but I feel like I'm losing sight of why I started all of this. I'm just so tired." The response came almost immediately. "Come over to my place tomorrow evening. We'll talk, and we'll figure this out together." Emma smiled at the message, feeling a sense of relief that she didn't have to go through this alone. The next evening, Emma found herself at Liam's apartment, standing at his door with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. She had never been to his place before, and she couldn't help but feel a little out of place in his world. But when Liam opened the door and greeted her with his usual warm smile, all of her anxieties melted away. "Come in," he said, stepping aside to let her in. "I've ordered dinner, and we'll have a chance to talk." Emma followed him inside, the space neat and modern, with large windows offering a stunning view of the city. It was everything she had imagined a CEO's apartment would be: sleek, stylish, and full of expensive touches. But none of it felt intimidating with Liam there. He was always down to earth, always making her feel like she belonged, no matter where they were. They sat down to eat, and Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't expected. She told Liam about the struggles of balancing the business side of things with her passion for painting. She told him how, despite everything going well, she was losing the joy she once had. She felt like the artist inside her was being buried under a mountain of responsibilities. Liam listened intently, nodding along as she spoke. When she finished, he placed his fork down and looked at her with a gentle, understanding expression. "I get it," he said. "It's easy to get caught up in the business side of things, especially when things start to take off. But you can't forget why you started this in the first place. It's about the art, Emma. You have to make time for that." His words hit her like a wave. She had been so focused on making the studio a success that she had forgotten what it was all about. It wasn't about making money or proving herself, it was about creating something that felt true to who she was. She had allowed the pressures of running a business to overshadow her passion, but Liam was reminding her of the core reason she had started this journey. "But how do I find that balance?" she asked, her voice quiet. "I don't want to lose the passion, but I also don't want the studio to fail." Liam leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "It's not about doing everything at once. You have to delegate. You don't have to do everything yourself. Surround yourself with the right people who can help take some of the load off. That way, you can focus on what you love, the art." Emma considered his words, feeling the weight in her chest begin to lift. She had always been afraid of letting go of control, of relying on others. But Liam was right. She couldn't do it all alone. With his support, she could find a way to enjoy the studio again. Over the next few weeks, Emma began to make changes. She hired a few assistants to help with the day-to-day operations of the studio, allowing her to focus more on her artwork. She started to rediscover her love for painting, spending hours in the studio, creating pieces that made her heart feel full. And through it all, Liam was there, always offering encouragement and helping her stay grounded. As the weeks passed, Emma's studio continued to thrive, but now it felt like it was thriving for the right reasons. She had found the balance she needed between the business and the art, and most importantly, she had found a way to keep the joy in the process. And she knew that no matter what the future held, she wouldn't be facing it alone. The months that followed were some of the most fulfilling in Emma's life. The studio continued to grow, and Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose as she balanced her responsibilities with her passion for painting. With the help of a few trusted assistants, She was able to focus more on her art. And the creative flow that had once been stifled by the weight of business decisions was now back in full force. Every day, she spent hours in the studio, painting, sketching, and experimenting with new ideas. She was finally living the dream she had once thought impossible. As the studio gained more attention, Emma began to build a small community of fellow artists and art lovers. It wasn't just a place to showcase her work, it became a space for people to connect over a shared love of creativity. The walls of her studio were filled with paintings, sculptures, and photographs from artists she admired, and the sense of collaboration and inspiration was contagious. Yet, despite the success, Emma began to feel a growing tension. It wasn't the studio or the people, it was her relationship with Liam. Over time, their connection had deepened, and they spent more and more time together, both in the studio and outside of it. Liam had been an incredible support, always there when she needed him, whether it was helping with a business decision or offering advice on a new project. He believed in her, and that belief had kept her going through some of her darkest moments. But as their relationship grew, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was holding something back. There were moments when he seemed distant, like there was something weighing on his mind. But whenever she asked about it, he'd brush it off with a smile and a change of subject. Emma didn't want to push him, but it made her uneasy. She began to wonder if he had been helping her out of obligation, or if there was something else he wasn't telling her. One evening, after a long day in the studio, Emma was sitting in her office, going over the week's finances. She felt exhausted, both physically and emotionally, but there was still something in her chest, an unease that wouldn't go away. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "We need to talk." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keys. She couldn't help but feel a surge of panic. Was this it? Was he going to tell her he was pulling back, that their relationship had been a mistake? She had grown so attached to him, to the comfort and stability he brought into her life, that the thought of losing him was terrifying. She quickly texted him back. "Is everything okay?" The reply came almost immediately. "Yes. It's just something I've been meaning to say. Can we meet tonight?" Emma felt her chest tighten. She didn't want to meet him at the studio. It was too professional, too formal. So, she suggested the cafe they had first met at, the one with the mismatched chairs and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee that always reminded her of simpler times. When she arrived, Liam was already there, sitting at a corner table, his eyes focused on his phone. As she approached, he looked up, offering a small smile, but there was a seriousness in his expression that Emma couldn't ignore. She sat down across from him, her heart racing. "What's going on, Liam?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. He took a deep breath, setting his phone down on the table. For a moment, he didn't say anything, as if he was gathering his thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us, about the studio, about how I've been involved in your life." Emma's heart sank. She felt a knot form in her stomach, dreading the words she was about to hear. "You've done so much for me," she said quietly, trying to hold back the emotion that was building inside her. "I don't know how I could ever thank you enough. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Liam looked at her, his eyes softening. "Emma, that's not what I'm trying to say. I care about you more than you know, and that's why I need to be honest with you." Emma leaned forward, her heart beating faster. "What do you mean?" Liam paused for a moment, then exhaled slowly. "I've been holding something back from you. I didn't want to complicate things between us, but I think it's time I tell you the truth." His words hung in the air, and Emma could feel her palms beginning to sweat. "I'm not just a businessman, Emma," Liam continued. "I'm also the CEO of a company that's been going through some tough changes. I've been busy with work, and I know I've been distant. But the real reason I've been so hesitant is because I didn't want to drag you into my world, especially when I wasn't sure where we were going." Emma blinked, trying to process what he was saying. "You mean, you've been afraid of our relationship?" Liam nodded slowly. "I didn't want to hurt you. I've seen how hard you've worked to build something for yourself, and I didn't want to jeopardize that by adding more stress to your life." Emma felt a rush of relief, followed by a sense of clarity. She hadn't been wrong to feel that something was off, but hearing Liam's words made everything fall into place. "I get it," she said softly, her heart calming. But you don't have to do this alone, Liam. We're in this together. I've learned that it's okay to ask for help, to let people in. Liam smiled, his eyes full of warmth. I don't want to lose you, Emma. I'm ready to let you in, all the way. Emma smiled back, the knot in her chest finally unraveling. For the first time in a long while, she felt like they were both finally on the same page, ready to face whatever came next, together. The following weeks were a turning point for Emma and Liam. They had cleared the air, and with that weight lifted, their relationship seemed to flourish in ways that neither of them had expected. They found a new rhythm together, a balance between their personal lives and the professional side of things. Emma continued to thrive in her studio, her art flowing more freely than it had in a long time. The studio itself had become a haven for her creativity, and her pieces were being shown in galleries around the city. She was more successful than she had ever imagined, and every day felt like a new opportunity. Liam, too, seemed lighter, more present in her life. He had opened up to her in ways that were difficult at first, but now Emma could see a side of him that few others had. His vulnerability, something he had kept hidden for so long, had only brought them closer. As much as Emma had feared the pressure of running a business, she now found that with the right people in her life, it wasn't as overwhelming. She had Liam's support, and in turn, she had built a team of assistants who handled the daily operations, allowing her to focus entirely on what she loved: painting. Still, as things seemed to be falling into place, Emma couldn't help but feel a nagging sense of uncertainty. She had been so focused on building the studio and her relationship with Liam that she hadn't truly addressed something that had been bothering her for months: the future. What would come after this? She had accomplished so much, but where was she headed next? Was this the end of her journey, or just another beginning? One evening, as she sat alone in her studio, she felt a familiar, bittersweet tug in her chest. She stared at her latest piece, a portrait of a woman gazing out at the city skyline, and wondered if she was looking at her own reflection. She had achieved her dream, but in the quiet moments, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't quite where she needed to be. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Liam. I've been thinking, the message began. We've built something incredible together, and I think it's time we take the next step. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? She quickly typed a reply. What do you mean the next step? Her fingers trembled slightly as she sent the message, her mind racing with possibilities. Almost immediately, his response came. Let's make it official, Emma. I want to build something with you, not just the studio, but a future. Will you marry me? Emma froze. The words on the screen seemed to blur as her heart thudded in her chest. It wasn't a question she had been expecting. They had never talked about marriage before, and yet, it felt like everything they had worked toward, everything they had built together had led to this moment. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She had never been one for rushing into big decisions. But everything with Liam felt different. Their connection was real, deeper than anything she had experienced before. She thought about the past year, the sleepless nights, the doubts, the fears, and the way Liam had stood by her side through it all. He had supported her, believed in her, and now he was asking her to take that next step, to make a commitment. Emma smiled to herself, her heart swelling with emotion. She typed back, yes. The word felt like it came from her heart, not just her mind. She knew this was right. This was the next step in their journey together. They weren't just building a business, they were building a life. When she met Liam that evening, he was waiting at the studio, a nervous smile on his face. He was holding a small box, and as soon as he saw her, his expression softened. You said yes? He asked, his voice full of hope. Emma nodded, her eyes welling with tears. Yes, she whispered. I want to be with you. Liam closed the distance between them and pulled her into a gentle embrace. He held her for a long moment, neither of them speaking, just holding on to each other. Emma could feel the weight of the world lift off her shoulders. She wasn't alone in this anymore. They had come so far, and now they were ready for whatever came next. Together, in the days that followed, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. It felt like a lifetime ago when she was working long hours at the cafe, unsure of where her life was headed. Now, she had built a successful business, found love, and was looking forward to a future with someone who truly understood her. She was ready for this next chapter. As she stood in her studio, looking out over the city, Emma felt at peace. She had everything she needed: her art, her studio, and the man she loved. Together, they were unstoppable. And this was only the beginning. As Emma stood in the soft light of the studio, surrounded by the art she had poured her heart and soul into, she realized that this was not the end of her journey, it was just the beginning. Her studio had become everything she had dreamed of, and more. The walls, once bare and cold, were now filled with pieces that told the story of her growth as an artist and as a person. The journey that had started in a small cafe with a misspelled name had brought her to this moment, a moment of fulfillment, but also of new beginnings. Liam stood by her side, his presence more comforting than ever. The proposal was only a few months behind them, but their connection had grown stronger with each passing day. They had created something beautiful together, not just a thriving business, but a relationship built on trust, support, and love. As Emma turned to Liam, she could see the future unfolding before her, not just as a businesswoman, but as someone who had the freedom to create, to explore, and to live her life on her own terms. They had shared challenges, moments of doubt, and triumphs, and now they were embarking on the most important journey of all, the journey of life together. But it wasn't just about the future. It was about enjoying the present, savoring every moment they had worked so hard to create. Liam reached out and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "You did it," he said softly, his voice filled with pride. "We did it," Emma corrected him with a smile. "I couldn't have done it without you." Liam's gaze softened. "You did it because you believed in yourself. You took that leap of faith, and look where you are now." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of his words sink in. She had believed in herself, even when it felt like the odds were stacked against her. She had made mistakes, had moments of doubt, but she had pushed through, and now, standing here in the studio, she was exactly where she was meant to be. "You've helped me see that I'm capable of more than I thought," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Liam smiled, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "That's what love is for," he said. "Helping each other grow, supporting each other's dreams, no matter how big or small." As they stood together, surrounded by the art that had brought them both so much joy, Emma knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more moments of doubt, but she also knew that with Liam by her side, they could face anything that came their way. And it wasn't just about business anymore. It was about building a life together. A life that was full of love, creativity, and the freedom to be themselves. Later that evening, they sat together at a small table in the back of the studio, enjoying a quiet dinner. The studio, now dimly lit, felt peaceful and full of promise. Emma felt content, happy in the knowledge that everything she had worked for was now a reality. She had created something that was truly hers, and in the process, she had found a love that was equally as fulfilling. She looked at Liam across the table, a soft smile on her face. "I never thought I'd get here," she said, her voice full of emotion. "But now that I'm here, I wouldn't change a thing." Liam reached across the table and took her hand. "I wouldn't change anything either," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "We've built something incredible together, and I know that this is just the start of what we can do. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude and love as she looked around at the studio, at the life they had built, and at the man who had stood by her side through it all. For the first time in a long time, she felt completely at peace. She had found her purpose, her place in the world, and most importantly, she had found someone who truly understood her. She wasn't just an artist anymore, she was a woman with a future, with dreams, and with the love of her life by her side. The road ahead wasn't always going to be easy, but Emma was ready for it. With Liam's unwavering support, she knew that no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together. This was the start of a new chapter, a chapter filled with love, growth, and endless possibilities. This touching story follows the journey of Emma, a talented artist who transforms her dreams into reality with the help of a supportive partner. Starting from a small coffee shop encounter, Emma's life takes unexpected turns, leading her to open her own art studio. Along the way, she faces challenges, doubts, and emotional hurdles. But with love and perseverance, she begins to see her vision come to life. The emotional connection between Emma and Liam grows stronger as they navigate the ups and downs of life and business together. This touching story delves deep into the themes of belief in oneself, overcoming fears, and the power of love and partnership. As Emma builds her future, she learns that it's not just about the studio or the business, but about the relationships that matter most. This touching story is a beautiful reminder that dreams can come true with determination, support, and love. The twists and turns Emma faces remind us all of the unpredictable journey of life, making this a truly touching story of self-discovery and love.